Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, also infamously known as The Halloween Without Michael Myers. This entry in the series, rather than focusing on teens being stalked by the Shape, focuses on Dr. Dan Chalice, played by Tom Atkins. All was going well for Dan. I mean, as well as things can go for a divorcee that doesn't get to spend much time with his 2 children.
Linda, take it easy. I'll be back to take them trick-or-treating, I promise.
That is until a mysterious man walks into his hospital clutching a silver shamrock Halloween mask, which seems to be all the rage this year.
Mom already got his mask. Silver shamrock, look!
Nice try.
8 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween.
At first, it may seem like the old man is simply out of his mind or not thinking straight. However, after a mysterious assassin comes into the hospital and kills the old guy, then kills himself by blowing up his own car in the hospital parking lot, Chalice begins to think that something may be afoot. His suspicions are then confirmed when a concerned daughter comes to town in search of clues involving her father's death.
I don't know. Your father came into the hospital and I thought he was crazy, out of his mind. He's hanging onto a Halloween mask. He wouldn't let it go. And what he said was, they're going to kill us all. And in a little while, he was dead. And I don't know what the hell is going on.
The two decide to team up and do some investigating on the mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of the girl's father. But the investigation leads them to a very strange place. The Silver Shamrock Factory, where these popular new Halloween masks are being manufactured in mass quantities and with questionable production practices.
Hey, Mr. Cochran, just what is the final process?
I assure it's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Quality inspection, the seal of approval, you know, the usual. And of course, a couple of trade secrets.
As the shady inner workings of the company begin to come to light and more mysterious deaths begin to arise, Chalice realizes that there's something much more sinister going on at Silver Shamrock than the production of Halloween masks, and that the fate of millions of children around the world may be at stake. Now that you're caught up to speed, let's take a look back at Halloween 3 Season of the Witch and go over 10 things you may have not known about the movie. Number 1. Where's Michael? A lot of people wonder why the hell Michael Myers isn't even in the 3rd installment of the franchise, and wonder why Halloween 3 doesn't appear to be connected to the previous 2 films. Well, you can argue that Michael is in the movie if you want to get technical about things and troll people.
The Immortal Classic, followed by the big giveaway at 9.
So, on a serious note, what's the deal? Well, the original plan the studio had in mind was that each Halloween movie could be totally different. Each entry would have its own unique storyline that's unrelated to the previous films and instead focuses on different scary things that could happen on Halloween. Unfortunately for the studio, fans weren't on board with this whole concept. They wanted Michael Myers back, and it showed with lackluster results at the box office. So, this idea was abandoned, and The Shape was brought back from the dead for the sequels.
You've come back to us, Michael.
Number 2. Jamie Lee Curtis returns. Remember how we said that Michael Myers is technically in the film, and you can use this little tidbit of info to troll horror fans around the world who will vehemently deny it? Well, here's some more ammo for you trolls out there. Curtis is technically in the film as well. When Chalice keeps trying to get in contact with Santa Mira, you'll hear an operator's voice.
Operator, this is an emergency. I want to...
Sorry, we cannot complete your call as dialed. Please hang up and check.
Does it sound familiar? Well, it should, because it's the voice of Jamie Lee Curtis. She also provides the voice you hear coming through the intercom.
It's 6 o'clock. Curfew. Curfew. All residents of Santa Mira, please clear the street.
Number 3. There's many connections to the previous films. So, we've talked about Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers technically being in the movie, but there's even more that connects the third entry to the previous films in the series. First up, director Tommy Lee Wallace was the editor of the original Halloween and was originally slated to direct Halloween 2. Second, Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, is credited as being an assassin. Third, the tagline, "The Night No One Comes Home," is an obvious play on the taglines from both Halloween and Halloween 2. Fourth, Dr. Chalice's ex-wife, Linda, is played by Nancy Loomis, the same actress who played Annie in the original. Her name, Linda, is also the name of one of her and Laurie's friends in the original.
Hey, Linda, Laurie, why didn't you wait for me?
Fifth, Dr. Chalice prescribes Thorazine to Harry Grimbridge,
100 milligrams Thorazine,
which is the same medication Dr. Loomis mentions to Nurse Chambers when they're planning to transport Michael Myers in the first film.
What do I give him when we take him in front of the judge?
Thorazine.
Gee, with all of these obvious nods, I don't know why people would have expected the film to be a continuation of the Michael Myers storyline. Number 4. Get your own mask. If you've ever wanted one of the masks from the film, you could have actually gotten one. To promote the film's release, the Witch Mask, Skull Mask, and Jack-o'-lantern Mask were actually sold in stores. To make things even cooler, they even used the original molds that were used to make the masks in the film. If only they'd done this with those Michael Myers masks, we wouldn't have to suffer through all of those shitty replicas throughout the years. Number 5. Sued for being too violent? The original writer, Nigel Neal, actually sued the production because he wanted his name taken off of the film after he'd seen how violent the movie turned out. As could be expected from somebody who wanted Bernard Quatermass's final villain to be punk culture. Still, you probably should have thought of that when you signed on to write a Halloween movie, dick. However, to be fair, director Tommy Lee Wallace stated that only about 60% of the film is from Neal's script. John Carpenter, the master of horror himself, did a rewrite on the original treatment, and then Tommy Lee Wallace added some stuff in there himself. Number 6, and the original director was... John Carpenter revealed that the original director for the film wasn't Tommy Lee Wallace. Instead, it was up-and-coming horror director Joe Dante, most famous for Gremlins and The Howling. Dante ended up leaving the project to focus on another film, and that's when Tommy Lee Wallace stepped in. Number 7. There were multiple endings filmed. Shortly before the film was released, Tom Atkins admitted in an interview that he had absolutely no idea how the movie was going to end because they had shot multiple endings during filming. We do know that one of the endings included the scream of millions of children dying after Tom Atkins screams for the commercial to be stopped. This ending was ultimately unused because Tommy Lee Wallace wanted it to be more ambiguous. However, recently, Atkins was approached at a convention and asked by fans if he thinks that he was able to get the third station to stop broadcasting the commercial, and he had this to say, "You bet your sweet ass I did. Absolutely. I know it was a little vague there in the end, but I know what happened." Number 8. Orange juice for blood? You know that goopy, orangish, yellow, nasty-looking stuff that the henchmen excrete when they're injured? Which, oddly enough, reminds me of the nasty yellow embalming fluid the tall man leaks whenever he was injured in the Phantasm films. Well, hold on to your seat, because you're never going to look at orange juice the same way again. That's right, the next time you're gulping down some with your bacon and eggs in the morning, remember that's what they used for blood for Cochrane's henchmen.
Tastes good.
Number 9. Red-headed henchmen only, please. Speaking of Cochran's henchmen, the original plan was for all of his henchmen to have only red hair, but they obviously scrapped this idea. It makes sense because Cochran went through so much trouble to make sure that his henchmen were lifelike.
Bless you. Convincing, aren't they? Loyal and obedient, unlike most human beings.
And honestly, how many daywalkers do you see on a daily basis? I like to think Tom Atkins would have known something was up immediately, especially since everyone knows that
ginger kids have no souls.
Number 10, the most difficult scene in the film. When talking about the most difficult scene in the film that you have to capture just right, you might think that it would be an action sequence or maybe an intense moment that requires expert acting to pull off. Well, if that's what you're thinking with this film, you'd be terribly wrong. This scene. Yes, the one with Tom Atkins throwing the mask over the security camera had to be shot over 40 times before they could get the mask to cover the camera. Director Tommy Lee Wallace said at a 2015 cast reunion panel that he knew this scene was going to be trouble from the get-go because while messing around on set, he tossed the mask at the security camera and it stuck on his first attempt. He knew it was a fluke that had happened that way and it was just too easy. Well, he was right. You totally jinxed yourself, Tommy. Well, this Halloween night is over, but don't worry because there's plenty more Halloweens a-coming. Next up, The Shape returns in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because you won't want to miss out on all of the Halloween goodies. Until next time, my friends.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!